Well, now it's 7:04. Why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? I'm sure Doug will join us when he can. I don't think we have anything from the last meeting because I think we approved our minutes. So,
Correct.
Steve, I think I'll give you the floor and you can talk about forecasts for 2022.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, for coming out tonight. This is kind of a pre-meeting to when we do have the full finance committee, and maybe we'll kind of, go through this again at the finance committee on the 28th. So anyways, Kevin and I have been looking at the numbers and seeing where kind of we feel things are going to end up, and we really used as a backdrop, or at least I did, the financial projections that this committee put together back in October and that we presented to the tri-board meeting. So we have a little bit more data now. So maybe if, Dan, can you share your spreadsheet?
My, or your version or my version?
Your version. I think your version is a little bit more,
Yes.
more accounting-like.
What did you say? Less ugly was yours or something? More ugly?
Mine crappy.
Crappy.
Crappy, that's
I
it.
think that was a FinCom member years ago who called it crappy, so it seems to work.
Well, who called it crappy?
Oh, she left years ago. Trying to think of her name. Do you remember her name, Kevin? No.
Was she the Federal Reserve person?
Yes.
Jeannie, right?
Jeannie McNevin. Yeah.
Yeah, Jean McNevin. Yeah, she called it crappy. No, she didn't. She just wanted me to change it, and I never did. I called it.
All right. I have my not crappy spreadsheet up. Let's see if no, I can't share it because the host is not letting me.
I'll give you, you need the whole.
Oh, this is her. Upsize everything.
We need to claim host. Dan, you need to claim host.
Do I do? Okay. Where is that little icon?
Going to participants, and
Oh, it's in participants.
then you go down at the bottom, it should say claim host.
Got it.
And the host key is
Yeah.
380101.
I think I may have it.
Okay, yeah, I think you do. So now you should be able to share your screen. There we go.
Okay. You guys see that?
Not yet. I still.
Oh, I wonder if it's because I got split screen going. Your shares, wait a minute, your screen sharing is paused. Why would it be paused?
My screen says Dan Sherman has started screen sharing, but I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it's paused. Why would it be paused? I don't understand that. Dock to bottom, recording to cloud, enhanced. Why would my screen share be paused? Let me try again.
There
How
it
about
is.
now?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, there's a little button up there that says pause share.
There you go.
Okay, so where would you like to go?
I think I would like to talk about the revenue side first. if we
Okay.
could.
That's right here.
That's right here. So, we certainly looked at a lot of the revenues, beforehand, and there were a lot of assumptions on our parts, and like they're always in forecasting, but I think we've made some pretty good assumptions over the past few years. And if we start there with state receipts, we are showing a little bit of an increase from the fiscal year that we're in now.
I am using right now state receipts increase of 4% in this current situation.
in this current situation right here.
Yeah.
So what we do know right now is that after 6 months of the fiscal year at the state level, that the state receipts have amazingly increased 2.7% overall more than last year. So, you know, the Governor Baker, through his tenure, has always said that he would increase unrestricted local aid by the same amount as the same percentage amount as the receipts increased for the state. So that is a portion of our aid, certainly not the larger portion of our aid. So that's good, better than I thought. Embedded in that 2.7% increase is mainly everything goes up pretty well, including income withholding tax, which I was shocked at. The biggest reduction is a 31% reduction from 2020 in meals tax. So that was a huge drop at the state, which we'll talk about that when we get to our local receipts, which we seem to fare much better than the state did statewide, which is good. And maybe part of that's timing from what we get to. So that 2.7 increase plus still rumblings from the state that there will be somewhat of a bump in Chapter 70 doesn't make me all that, I'm not all that uncomfortable, and I'm actually carrying a little bit higher number than Dan is here, but I'm not all that comfortable with that number. So I feel like that puts us certainly in the ballpark.
Okay.
When we, are there anybody else want to talk about that before we go to local receipts, or? No?
No.
Okay, cool. Local receipts. You know, again, Kevin was great, and you all received a, what did I do with it? A comparison over, you know, this year to date to the first 6 months of the fiscal year and going back the last 3 fiscal years, which was, again, pleasantly surprising to us, with everything doing really well, with everything doing fairly well, I should say. Local options meals tax for us, you know, last year was about 187,000 through the first 6 months of the fiscal year. I expected quite a tank there, but we've received 167,000 this year. So really about 90% of what we received last year. Maybe a little timing there with, you know, what we got from the state when it came in, but I think the outdoor dining and the takeout has done fairly well for our restaurants in Wakefield. And I will tell you that, you know, if you drive by a few of them, they do seem to be pushing the 25% capacity, but that's another story. So that was pleasantly surprised. Hotel taxes really tanked, where we would normally be looking at through the first 6 months of the fiscal year, about, you know, between 350 and 400,000 in hotel motel taxes. This year it's 139,000. So that is a reduction that may come back to bite us. It is a little bothersome.
Do we
However,
get a breakdown of that in terms of like what's from Sheraton and what's from everywhere else?
I mean, no, I don't. They don't give it to us. It'd be
Okay.
nice to know. But I will tell you that, and we've tried to get that, Doug. It appears that MEMA is renting out the Sheraton through the end of May. Every room in the Sheraton, in order to, if they need it for any COVID related items, people that should not be hospitalized, but would be, you know, had to go somewhere and isolate somewhere. So if that does occur, we're checking into that to make sure that the hotel tax is paid. So we can wet our beak a little bit, so to speak. So that would be a good thing if that were to happen. That would certainly help those numbers there a little bit.
So Steve, you're referring to the Munis sheet, right, that Kevin provided?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so then it's through the period 6 of the year, and it's this year's current 139 for me hotels
Yeah,
versus 348 last year. That's what you're referring to, right?
exactly.
Okay.
That's the biggest, that would be the biggest issue here. There's also some timing and some other issues, but overall, we feel that based on the local receipts that we've received over the first 6 months, if that carries service over the next 6 months, also knowing that we have a large excise tax commitment that's going out, and it goes out every spring, and that'll be about $3 million, Kevin, probably. Okay. So Kevin's nodding his head. So if we were to, double what we've already received and add, and take out some of the excise tax there, and you add the $3 million there, we should be in the, over the 6.25 million that we expect this year on this year. So I'm feeling pretty good about next year's number that we're coming in at 6.875 million. So I think that I feel pretty good about. An interesting point here is on the building department. Our building department is probably busier than they've ever been. Everybody is doing work on their homes right now. So their receipts are very high. It's a lot of little permits. We haven't had those big permit fees that come in where the building permit fee is $200,000-$300,000. So, but they're very busy. Those seem to keep on going, and new projects keep coming in one after another. So that's pretty well held at serve. So I am cautiously optimistic on the fee on our local receipt side. I don't know.
So Steve, so for fiscal year 21, we're docked it all the way down to 6250.
Yeah.
So we're looking at something greater than that for
I would think
21.
so. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed is a couple of other names on our call that may be thinking we're going to talk about the playground. And just to let them know, they're welcome to stay, but we will not be discussing the playground at this meeting. This is an overarching review of the entire budget, and the playground will come up under capital. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so that in local receipts, tax, moving on to tax collection, the tax levy, that has been coming in, very well. We collect, people are paying their taxes very well, so that's good. And, the other big bugaboo there on next year would be new construction, which we are anticipating the transfer station, MLD transfer station, the bulk of that actually coming in. So that is a number that, we're not going to know until September, but, the assessor has been alerted to that, and he's been told the pressure's on him, and he damn well better come in at that number, or else Kevin and I will take him out back and flog him. So we do think that we're feeling pretty good there on those ends there. The only difference that I have, I think, with Dan's number here is Dan has available funds of 84. We're holding a little bit higher number at 248, and I think, Kevin, you probably feel that's a better number there.
That's
On
correct.
that.
Right. That you have the bus fees at 115,000 and a couple other items that it should be in that the range Steve had just mentioned.
I just unmuted myself. I think I've got the bus fees in a different spot.
I think you might, yeah. Sometimes you do that. So
Yeah.
okay. So I think when we look at the revenue side, I am fairly comfortable that we're in the and then of course we add the free cash in there that you don't have in there, but I'm holding $1 million in free cash. So we are fairly, at this point, fairly comfortable that we're going to come in at that, roughly that $102 million range on the revenue side. So using free cash, as we spoke about.
Yeah, so my free cash is right here, the 1.255, so we're in the same ballpark.
I guess how confident are we in the 51 million more coming in for fiscal 21? Like in terms of, or 49 million, I guess it is. It's close, close to 50. So to get us to the 95, 915 in total income at the bottom. How confident are we to get there? So your grand total through the year was 46.1.
Okay, all right, well, new growth is a part of it, right? So we know that new growth will be a part of it. And we also, one number we do know is we do know that the tax levy itself will go up. If you take last year's number and multiply it by 1.25%, that's a mathematical equation. So I'm very confident in that 79,318.
No. I'm not concerned with fiscal 22. I'm actually more concerned with 21. Are you really going to come in at 95, 915? Because thus far for the year, you're only at 46.1. So you've got about almost $50 million to add to the current total.
Yeah. Well, again, I think there's a little bit of a skew on the excise tax that skews in the second half of the year.
Okay.
And then the real estate tax should come in, May 1st and February and May 1st. So yeah, I think we're feeling pretty confident. Yes, to answer your question, Doug.
Okay.
Are you confident, Kevin?
I'm confident.
All right, so if
So
there
where
are,
to next?
all right, want to talk about the the spending side. So I think that let's start out with education. I am carrying, and I do this a little bit different than Dan does on education. I do think that, and I've told this to the superintendent, that a 4%, roughly a 4% increase in the school department is something that I'd be looking at in the public school. So I know that I think that we were holding a little bit higher number here. I'd like to see that come in at 4% if we could. I know there's a lot of challenges on there, and I know that learning is going to look different. There is certainly a learning loss due to the COVID-19 issues, but I think we have to be very, very careful there.
I have 488.
Yeah, I think you carried a little bit more. I think that we should be very careful when we look at that. That's still an increase of about 1.8 million in that budget. So I think we have to really look at that line by line. And very happy to work. I mean, I talk to Doug all the time. There are a number of items that we're able to buy, laptops and things like that through the COVID expenses. The school department has been great about chasing some of the school education specific COVID funds to cover some items. So I think we have to really look at that very carefully.
Yeah, but Steve, aren't you pipe dreaming here? Because isn't their contract going to take them over 4 or roughly around 4?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, we can say, like, oh, I'd love for it to be 2, but it's not going to be. And I defer a little to the folks who are on that side of it, who are on the school budget, but I mean, they just did their contract, and we know it's sort of backloaded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're a little hasty to change that to 4, Dan.
Yeah, I am not going to save this. I'm just playing around with it.
Yeah, I'll just chime in to inform the group generally that Doug and I spoke last week about getting together to have a first look. So most acutely for Jim, who's also on the subcom, but we'll be having that sit down to go through his preliminaries. I know his subcommittee, or the school comm subcommittees had their ongoing discussions. The next one's next week, which I'll attend. So hopefully, Doug, I'll have more detailed response precisely to that. But every year, right, it's the inertia of that big item that is really the only one that matters. So we'll see.
Like the old leases.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the other operating budgets, we're working with an assumption to bring them in around 3% cumulatively. I think the first group of budgets that will go to the town, to the FinCom, including projected contractual obligations for all unions, which I'm going to put in the budgets that you look at. And it's just the clerical union, so they'll be put in each individual budget. It's not a lot of people, but so you can see exactly, what you're looking at. I think that the first group of the town hall budgets are coming in at 1.35, Kevin, 1.36%.
That's correct.
Over. The department heads have been told to not, that anything that is new and exciting in their mind, they are to run by us, and I think that they haven't come up with too much that's new and exciting yet. So we'll take a look there.
so Steve, I'm just looking at my forecast, and I've got 3% across the board for much of these. But I just happen to focus for a moment on the medical insurance. And it seems to me, I've been reading a lot about like the GIC and
Yeah.
others have been holding those rate increases down. So have you thought at all about in terms of what the GIC might be doing?
Yeah, we're hearing. I'm holding that at a 3% increase in my thought process right now. I am hearing that there is some appetite there to have some increases there. We'll try to move people off plans and what we have before. Also in my mind, embedded in that budget is fully funding the ARC in
OPEB?
OPEB. That may be something that we, could use to do some smoothing if we needed to, but we haven't had any initial numbers from them yet. We're looking at all of those things. So I traditionally 3% increase, or the last few years, a 3% increase in that budget would be very large.
Oh yeah.
I put that into my forecast thinking, I don't know what this means. Part of me thinks that they should be running a surplus in the insurance side because all of the elective surgeries aren't happening.
Exactly. That's my point.
But I don't know if their costs aren't going up from the hospitals for ongoing for next year. So there's all of those to make up their level. So there's all those things to look at.
Okay.
So I landed on 3 as kind of a.
All right. I just changed mine to 3 because I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be as great as it has been. Okay.
Protection of persons and property, we'll be looking at those. I have not gone through those budgets yet, and we'll be getting those in the next week, but they've been given a pretty much of a riot act too, read to them. I will say that all of the contracts, save the clerical union, have already been settled. So there's not that. I think that there shouldn't be any big bumps there. That's helpful on our side. Public Works, they've done a pretty good job on that budget. Been very much more mission specific. So I think that they'll be in pretty good shape. We talked about general government, that maybe that won't come in that high. I think unclassified, what do we have here? I think what you have as unclassified is different than me. I don't see anything. We're going to level fund snow and ice. I think street lights will level funding. Workers' comp, we've had a really good year as far as injuries are concerned. Hopefully that holds for us a little bit, helps our mod, although our payroll is up. So we'll have to see how that runs through. Do you have any comments to add on that, Kevin?
Not on workers' comp, but under unclassified, the Medicare line item
Yeah.
will go up based on salaries. So what I'm doing is I'm waiting for a few more of the bigger budgets to come in with their salary figures, so I can estimate that budget from last year to this year, or from this year to next year, I should say.
Yeah, I got my spreadsheet set up to calculate that amount based on payroll. So that's why I have the 849. I have 850,000 versus 793 this year.
Right.
Is workers' comp, is that probably half school and half public safety generally, or do we know?
Well, public safety, police and fire are not under workers' comp. They're under a
Section 111F.
111. So we actually do a pay-as-you-go thing there. So that doesn't affect that modification. It's mainly DPW and schools, but we have had a really good year this year with very, very few, because people aren't in work, right? So there's very few open falls. So it has, and it's been a fairly mild winter as far as snow is concerned. So, you know, we sometimes get injuries there too from our DPW guys.
But I think Dan's estimates for maybe this year are low, but for next year, they should stay at that. We can't grow it 3% off whatever the low number is this year. I would say you continue with, I would forecast it to be around that 490 level or whatever. Like almost do the trend line ignoring this year versus
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
versus reducing it, you know, going forward. It doesn't seem like that should, I don't think it should be a permanent reduction.
No, I would agree, but the only good thing with that is, or one of the good things with that is that they look at your last 3-year experience level in injuries. So I think our last 2 had been better anyway. We had the big ones. So I think we just have 1 open claim now, Kevin, is that it?
Yeah, something like, it's very small.
Very
It's either
small.
1 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may end up being what, like a minus 20% this year down.
No, because our payroll is growing, but it might be a little bit
Okay.
or level.
All right. I got 3% right now, so we'll leave it for the moment.
I'd keep it, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, I was
And
up here.
just in general, payroll growing. Is there any pause in that in sight, or would you describe, generally speaking?
Any pause in sight? No.
Not even that parking officer?
I mean, well, that's we could talk about that, but that's a part-time. There's 2 part-time positions. That's not going to make or break us.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for the full-time, fully loaded. That's all. How many? We'll see through the budgets. I don't know. Has there been any discussion about the length of the runway and trying to get out of this dip and hiring people or not hiring people or that any discussion to that to the department heads?
I think that we tend to run fairly lean anyway, to tell you the truth. There have been some different types of positions added. Again, they've been part-time, so they're on benefit eligible, so we can save it on that end. A couple of positions at town hall that are basically, I'll call them greeters for lack of a better word, and they kind of, shepherd you around the building so we can contact trace. I think we will see some increased hours at the police department for mental health clinicians and things like that. I think that's pretty important. We saw that just the other day. I don't see.
I guess that's what I want. Based on Jim's question, it's like what the payroll growing. How much of it is growing due to short-term COVID related, like the greeters at town hall versus
Very, very small part of that on our side of the house is COVID related.
and on the school side?
Schools, I mean, they hired 16 remote teachers this year. So, I mean, there's always the question is what's going to happen with those? Are they going to replace people in the classroom? Will they be let go? And then there's an unemployment issue. I think those are good questions for the school subcommittee. They did add a lot of personnel, and they had to. I mean, to do some of this. So
Yeah,
would
I'm just
say, yeah.
asking from a forecasting perspective, how much of the growth should be, baked in and carried through versus how much is temporary, more temporary.
Yeah.
It's a question for another day.
Yeah, it is. And I would say in education particularly, I mean, education is changing. Some of these students that, it's been horrible for them having a remote, even a hybrid, what have you. Some of these kids have thrived in a remote environment. So I think there'll be somewhat of a rethinking in some of that part as education services are delivered, but that's Doug's bailiwick.
Yeah, is that on the special ed side or the?
I think
both?
special ed, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. But I think most special ed students really are for the most part are not getting the services they should because of this. It's harder to get those that interaction with their aides and helpers and what have you. But I think some maybe kids that were on the fringe, maybe didn't have intense IEPs have done better with the remote education. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic as it all flushes out over the next year. And there seems to be pools of money for that right now. Whether that dries up or not is another question.
Joanne, I'll just jump in if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, to agree with Steve that Doug had intimated that he'll have for us when we meet, what some of the mix they're considering, how it plays out from total cost and headcount movements and things like that. So that's, we've talked about that ex ante, of course. I don't have the numbers for you yet or anything like that, but of course, your center bullseye on the key issue we'll be looking at with Doug in the first meeting and the subsequent ones as well, I suspect. But I can attest that at the risk of getting personal is, my daughter's on an IEP and she's benefited in some end because her social anxiety episodes are down from not having to actually walk into school and things, but maintaining her attention throughout a remote learning experience is a bit difficult. So that just one human being gives you a sense of some of the spectrums of issues, no pun intended, for some of the issues they're dealing with and the myriad approaches they're strategizing on. So,
Yeah, I think there's going to be an adjustment in education. I really do.
Yeah.
So everywhere. I mean,
Everywhere, yeah, no. We've gotten much better about delivering certain services, changing some procedures, and I can see down the road perhaps some different savings in certain areas. I can also see where certain areas are going to ratchet up as well. So there's going to be somewhat of a shift in some of the focuses.
Where do you want to go next?
Capital, I'm holding capital like we spoke about as in the beginning at jumping back up to the $2 million range.
Yep.
Right over there. We had people on tonight that were interested in capital project.
And that kind of, begs the question, when we bifurcated the capital spending for this year, what's the list of things that didn't get done and how do we get whole with that over what period of time?
Well, we'll be looking at that at the $1 million that we cut first. I think I would give them the first shot. I'm not on the committee, but that'll be my suggestion. But there are some areas where maybe we didn't need that extra that vehicles. We kind of figured another way to do it. So maybe that goes away. We did, using some of the federal funds, addressed some HVAC issues. Generator at the town hall that had been on our list for a while, using federal and CARES, all CARES and funds of different buckets to handle that. So we did look at a lot of those other issues and use the federal funds for that. New computers that were bought for students in certain instances. So capital may shift a little bit because some of these items were kind of put through the federal kind of grant program. So
Yeah,
you're looking at that. But, Kevin and I were talking today and, capital is an area where, capital is all about timing, sometimes there's a delay. I'm thrilled that we have, ratcheted that up to $2 million a year. It was like 250 or something 10 years ago. So that was a nice place to go. And is that a spot where if there is a tank in the economy over the next quarter, do we, go $1.5 million? So that's something that we'll have to look at.
Okay.
I'm also putting $1 million in stabilization. We got away from that. I think we'd like to start increasing that again. So I've got that in my initial outlook.
You didn't mean 1 million, you meant 100,000.
100,000.
okay, I was gonna,
That'd be quite a trick.
I was gonna say,
That would be. Yeah, so you can see what I've done. I've added the 100,000 and bumped it 25K per year for the coming years.
And when we did our exercise a while ago and we talked about where our free cash level would be over the next few years, and that we assumed that we just hit our revenue numbers, and B, none of the departments returned any money. And we saw how our capital, how our reserves went. I'm optimistic that departments will return money and that we will hopefully exceed our revenue side a little bit. So I think we're going to see us build that free cash a little bit quicker than we thought, which is, I'm very happy about that.
I was gonna say, where our free cash, I have a forecast here on free cash.
Right.
5 million dropping down to 4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that right, based on our discussion on 21, this 4 million is probably too low.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. So we'll have to see what happens. So that's what I'm saying. We base that on those two items. Every every dollar being spent from every department and revenues coming in, at what we projected, nothing extra. So
The 6250 is that's too low. We already know that, so that'll help.
well, hopefully we hope it. If it trends, we'll be good.
Yeah. All right. I noticed Elise has joined us, and just to let her know, you're welcome to stay, but we're not going to be talking about the playground. This is an overview of the entire budget for 22 that we're thinking about. Okay, Steve, where would you like to go next?
Cherry sheet offsets, actually, last year, the library, which is mainly the library, came in at 50,000. So that's in the ballpark.
Okay.
Capital overlay, we'll keep that at 600,000. Victor's done a good job. State and county assessments, which is mainly the MBTA and the charter school. Interestingly enough, in talking with the superintendent, we are going to see what we can do on the charter school. We have 66 students at the charter school in Malden. And, each child, when they go, take with them, $12,600 worth of state funding. So we're going to have to take a look at that to see what we can do to bring some of those children back here, which would really help, help our bottom line. So that's something that Doug and I have been talking about. And actually, the town council we've requested that, we'll be requesting that the charter school come in and actually make us a little presentation. We haven't seen them, and that's, we send them, oh my goodness, 66 times. No, we send them, about $850,000 a year or so. I think that if we have any departments that spend that money, we should take a look at and see what we're getting for our buck. So we'll be looking at that too.
Do they have to respond to us, or is this like?
No, they
cash
really
or market?
don't. They really don't, but they should. If they don't, then that gives me a little bit more fodder when I talk to my state delegation. For what that's worth.
Sure.
And I think they should. We're part of their marketplace, right?
I don't disagree.
As far as the delegation goes, any feedback on the new House rep?
The new Speaker of the House?
No, at the state, the lady one from Melrose, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's very nice. I meet with her every 2 weeks. They have put in a number of earmarks for us in the budget. They work together. The delegation continues to work together. So, but right now it's over there. There's not a lot of new money coming out. They're
Right.
kind of holding serve, but there's a big economic bond bill that came, a transportation bond bill that came, that was passed. The issue is, will the governor release those funds? Because it's the legislature also feels good because they put your earmark in there, whatever it is, 300,000 for this, 200,000 for that. And then the governor, they look great, but the governor never releases it. So it just sits there. Let's see. Other than that, I think we feel, I was much heartened after going through this, and kind of came to the conclusion that we're not as, we're better than I anticipated as being, certainly in May when this all came in. So I think both Kevin and I were feeling a little bit better after we had gone through this.
Okay,
The chairman, can I pose a question?
go ahead.
Thanks. So Steve, this may all amount to noise, I don't know, but one of the curiosities I had in May, probably up through now, is have COVID restrictions saved us any money, again, maybe on small things like deferred trainings or, not to be able to travel for XYZ?
Yes.
Less gas expenditure, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or manifested in more operational risk now or in the future, such as, I don't know, delayed firefighter academies, police academies that might run up, replacement risk, thus overtime, whatever.
Yeah.
Any macro or predictable within those?
Well, actually, the academies continued to go through.
Yeah.
So we actually just put on our active police force the last the 3 that were just in the academy. So I think that's for the first time that I can remember we have 47, 48 uniformed police officers.
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing with the fire department, where we're at full capacity. Where there has been help in a very micro area, because this won't go forever, is that when we've had a police or a firefighter out due to COVID related or COVID quarantine or exposure to someone, what have you, we've backfilled, and of course, as we do, and there's an overtime cost to that, obviously. And that overtime cost, because it's COVID related, we have been able to put that into the CARES / FEMA fund. So we will be reimbursed for those costs. So actually, I think that's going to be helpful for us in this year in a very micro sense. Macro sense, I think that, I think that some of those areas of out-of-state travel, and it's small in each department. I think that those are some things we could pick away at a little bit. I think that things like paper and cost of paper and mailing and things like that, we're not doing that as much anymore. Everything's in a portal, what have you. So there are some savings, on not huge, but you can carry those forward.
Yeah.
So I can see us changing how we're doing somewhat of our business. I think, switching to one polling place, we did that a few years ago, that's helping. even switching to, as silly as it sounds, switching to a Saturday town meeting, there's a little bit of savings there too, because you don't have to ramp up and you don't have to pay a number of minimums on details and what have you. So there are a bunch of little things that we're more efficient at. So, DPW doing things a little bit better and differently. So, I think I think we've also hired, really upgraded a lot of our staff. I think in the DPW division, particularly in the engineering division, we have a same number of staff that we've had in the past, but far superior on what they're doing, far less going out for outside help. So we're not spending as much on that outside help as we were before. So I see those as really big pluses in it.
Anything in particular on hardware or connectivity stresses through the IT budget, stuff like that? And again, if it sounds like I'm just searching, I'm trying to analogize to other budgets I look at in my day, so just trying to figure if there's an analogy here for you.
Again, I did put in for a big, we did try to go for some big upgrades of the, the servers and data storage and things like that. A couple things we didn't get, which I was really kind of upset about, frankly, that we need. That is an area we're going to look at, and to the extent that we can roll that into grants and what have you, we will.
Yeah.
But we're good right now. We're okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
But that's a great question, because there is a capacity issue.
Yeah, not to be the hobby horse on this one too, but we in the private sector are obviously dealing with the increased risk of cybersecurity incidents because of remoteness. I don't know how that manifests in the municipal world, but that was another thing on my mind too. Great to expand the bandwidth and capabilities. That brings with it, however, other risks we haven't dealt with in quite the same way. So, okay.
Just a quick question, because circling back to local receipts, I don't know, I see Dan playing around with the,
Yeah, I bumped that to 7 million. I thought, well, what would happen if I increase that to 7 million? And some beautiful things happened. Like looking at free cash across there, I'm going, oh, hello.
yeah, you're just kind of freewheeling it. I'm just wondering, it's when we're comparing it to prior year, COVID didn't start really until the second quarter, the last 2 weeks of March. I'm wondering if there's a breakdown of local receipts in the first, if we break it down quarterly and then look at it.
I mean, we have a breakdown for the first quarter of this fiscal year comparatively. Kevin, we can look at the first, the third and fourth quarters when this year, when they come out and going forward. Yeah.
I guess I'm just thinking if we extrapolate the, from April 1st of last year and extrapolate that through the end of this fiscal year, we've got a better sense of what this year's number looks like, and then, kind of build a base off of that.
Yeah. Another thing I want to touch base on is unemployment. Like everybody else, and we are, we pay as we go on unemployment. We're holding the number at 75 because COVID-related unemployment is certainly unemployment that's COVID-related. We can also get reimbursements for. Now, you would say to me, well, really, we didn't let anybody go. We really didn't let anybody go. But we got hit and inundated, and I haven't paid a bill yet, and nor do I intend to. With town employees that have a second job that they lost, that the government, the state tries to charge back to us because we pay as we go, right? So they want to get someone that can pay them. So I'm not paying any of those because these people weren't laid off, number one. Number two, a lot of fraud, people that, we get unemployment claims on, that I'm saying to myself, and I get the list that would come in. geez, all these 20 people at town hall that are on that were dinged on this one. I don't think I fired any of them. They're all still here. So that is going to come. That's going to be an interesting dynamic going forward. And I bring it again because if there are people that were hired for COVID reasons that are now that are then let go next fiscal year, and I'm thinking of remote teachers and what have you, I don't think there's going to be anything to cover that. I think in that case, we're going to probably have to cover that. So that's something we need to keep an eye on what we're doing. I don't think we'll have that problem on the municipal side. School side, like I said, they hired a lot of.
Ellie, I just need you for 1 second. Jamie, Penny, Ellie, 1 second.
But is the unemployment for the
Like
school?
our whatever intercom system through Alexa. It's like a broadcast that goes through the house to all of them.
What is that? Trying to herd the cats?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's come down and whatever, finish cleaning up the kitchen or something like that. She's good. She's like, sets like 5 minutes, like come down for 5 minutes, get off technology for 5 minutes out of the hour. By the way, still pulling teeth.
Yep, I bet.
Just electronically aided.
So the unemployment for schools, Steve, that is not budgeted through the schools, right? Is that correct?
No, that's 75,000 that we've been carrying.
Right.
Is
Right.
1/3, 2/3. Sort of.
Thank you. Yep.
I think on the town side, we probably had one employee that we let go that was not COVID related. Does that sound right to you, Kevin? I think one.
Yes.
So that's business. That was okay.
Is there any, I don't know, chargeback philosophy or otherwise to incentivize the schools to, to just which as wise as they can? So it's not in their budget is basically my point.
Right. Well, I've gone back and forth on this over the years.
I know.
And I've come to this conclusion on the unemployment budget. Because the school department has can move between line items, and we can't on the town side. If they don't spend that on unemployment, okay, and let's say we have a good year on unemployment and there's 50 grand left in the account at the end of the year, that can all roll back to the general fund. Okay, great, it goes and builds free cash. If we were to say, all right, you guys, school department, keep that in your own budget, I will guarantee you that 50 grand that would have rolled back to the general fund will somehow be moved into some other line item and be spent. Kevin, what do you think?
That is true. And usually what happens, we appropriate 75,000 into unemployment. If we go over 75,000, and the reason we go over the 75,000 is because the school went over their 50,000 allotment, we charge that back directly to the schools. We don't come to the finance committee for a reserve fund. We go to the schools, say, you spent more than your 50,000, that these people are not working, so you're not paying them, so there should be money in various line items within the school
Right.
budget to cover the unemployment cost.
Right.
So we have made the school department pick up anything over the 50,000 if we go above the 75,000 allotted.
Right. And I think what
So
happens.
there is a mechanism then. There's a ceiling and then a charge back beyond that. Okay.
Correct. But I will tell you that if we, if the, there's a $75,000, it should be 50-25. If the school department spent 65 on unemployment, and we spent 10, then we would cover that within the 75.
Yep. No, I that's how I thought Kevin described it. Yep. Greater than the 75. Yep.
Yeah, I think like I said, I'm pretty comfortable. I think Kevin's pretty comfortable. I'm more
Yes.
comfortable if those numbers came in the way Dan was playing with them, but who knows? I think we're, like I said, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. All right, any other business for this group? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:59.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
So Steve, would you go ahead and write up some minutes on this?
Yeah, they'll be very short and pithy. I have a way with
Yes.
words, I was told.
Yes. Smooth talker.
Who talker, yes.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
All right,
Thank you, everyone.
beautiful.
Have a safe
All right,
weekend. Take
Happy New
care.
Year.
thanks, guys.
Yep.
Talk to you
Vaccine,
later.
vaccine is coming too. We'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
Good night.
All right, good night.